Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. I have a good friend who is a great trial lawyer, and his approach to cross-examination is very similar to what your average Taekwondo fighter would do in any match, which is to run right up and punch the other person in the snout. And the reason you do that is because the way you start is the way you finish. And if you have a hostile witness that you have to cross-examine, then the best way to do that is to cross-examine them vigorously. But that doesn't mean you have to come off like a bully or anything like that. It just means you have to ask hard questions. Now, the opening statement for the defense was done by the gentleman part of the team here. There's a man and a woman who are representing Adam Montgomery. And in the process of representing him, the man did the opening statement, and I thought he did a reasonably good job. And he said that there was going to be fireworks, essentially, when Kayla Montgomery took the stand, and they were going to essentially get out of her the fact that these injuries were caused by Kayla. Now, there is an art to cross-examination. I know I've talked about it on here before, where as the lawyer, you are the person testifying on cross-examination. The witness is up there saying either yes or no. And when they say yes, you move on to the next question. And when they say no, you bring out the document or the piece of paper or the evidence that shows that they're lying about that. You get them to admit they had that wrong, and then you move on. It is a steady process built on leading questions. And there is a really good example of this at the very beginning of Kayla Montgomery's cross-examination. Let's take a listen.
I think you said that you were never alone with Harmony once you were evicted.
Right.
And I think you said pretty much the whole family unit stayed in the car.
Yes.
And that was from the time that you were evicted.
Yes.
And I think you also said something about from the time that you were evicted, every time you were in public, Harmony had to be under a cover.
Yes.
Okay. And you talked about an accident that was on November 29?
Yes.
And that's the day after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
A couple of days after you got evicted.
Yes.
And after that, on the same day of that accident, you actually went with the family to your mother's house.
Yes.
And so you, Harmony, Declan, and Seamus are there with your mother and her boyfriend and Adam.
Yes.
You were not in the car at that time.
No, we were inside the apartment.
And Harmony was not under a blanket.
No.
Did you see that? Quick, surgical, went right to the heart of it, got her to admit that two things she said on direct exam, that she was under this blanket all the time and that she was never out of the car, very easily debunked pretty quickly. And in addition to that, showing that there are other people who know that Harmony was not under the blanket on that day. Now, what that has or what that means in the context of the case in general is going to be subject to revealing later on, but basically what they're establishing is that this gal is not telling the whole story or the truthful story, and they're trying to build this evidence that she is a liar. And if you'll recall, in the opening statement, he said that the information would come from Kayla's own mouth and that it would be done reluctantly. Now, in that regard, I want you to take a look at the clips that I'm going to show now, where you're looking at her on her direct examination, and she's sitting up and she's facing forward. Her hair is down around her shoulders. She looks relaxed, and she doesn't seem to be particularly stressed in any way. Now you look at her on this cross-examination, and you can see she's got her hair changed. It's up in a little ponytail, and she's sort of slouching. And whenever the questions get uncomfortable, you can watch her wiggle.
When the police came to you, they wanted to talk to Adam about his daughter, right?
Yes.
And at that time, you and Adam were separated, right?
Yes.
You were living in the shelter.
Yes.
This was your second time at the Fit shelter, right?
Yes.
And Adam was in Maine, right?
Yeah.
And when they talked to you, you told them that as far as you knew, Adam had taken Harmony to his mother's, right?
Her mother's, yes.
I'm sorry, thank you. And you said that you thought Adam was in Maine,
Yes.
but you didn't give them a way to get in touch with him.
Right.
But you got in touch with him.
Yes.
And you said for him to come back to Manchester.
Yes.
You said that he needed to deal with this too.
Yes.
And you said that you were not dealing with it by yourself.
Yes.
And you said, this is not my fault.
Yes.
And Adam came when you contacted him.
Yes.
And he came to Manchester.
Yes.
But he came to Manchester with a woman,
Yes.
Kelsey Small.
Yes.
And you two had been separated since March of 2021.
Yes.
Actually, St. Patrick's Day, wasn't it?
Yes, that's when I left.
You left and you called the police,
Yes.
and Adam got arrested, right?
Yes.
And he was in jail for a while, right?
30 days, yes.
And you said he was going crazy, right?
Yes.
That he started going crazy and accusing you of all sorts of stuff,
Yes.
and he actually struck you,
Yes.
and you called the police.
Yes.
And you stayed with your mom for a little bit after that,
Yes.
and then you were back at the shelter.
Yes.
And once again, just a steady stream of yes, yes, yes. One question right after the other. Now, I'm not really sure what she's building up to here, but basically what she's trying to get to and what she ultimately does get to in this cross-examination is this is the fury of a woman scorned. You're upset because he came down with another woman and you decided to take it out on him by essentially throwing him under the bus for Harmony's murder. So now we're going to get to a little bit of that, and particularly this evidence of what the defense attorney is going to call betrayal, and which Kayla is not going to want to admit is betrayal. But again, this is where impeaching people with documents really does a phenomenal job of keeping them
You
honest.
finished?
Yeah.
Do you recognize those writings?
Yes.
And those are writings of your thoughts that you put to paper about what you wanted to betray Adam, right?
No. They are my thoughts. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go. One of the things that you wanted was one last time with Adam, right?
Right.
You wanted one last time to maybe kiss him or make love.
Yep.
And what you didn't write was that you wanted protection from Adam, right?
Right.
What you didn't write was that you were afraid of Adam, right?
Right.
Because you didn't want protection from Adam, right?
I wasn't thinking about that.
Okay. You just wanted to be with him one last time before you, as you put it, betrayed him, right?
Yes.
Now, this may sound sexist, but based on my experience, women often do a better job of cross-examining female witnesses, particularly in this context, than do male attorneys. Because if a male attorney starts asking questions assertively and aggressively, then he can sometimes be thought of as a bully, somebody who is pushing around a fragile witness in order to get them to twist their words or whatever. But female attorneys generally have better emotional intelligence. I think all women have better emotional intelligence than men. Again, that's based on experience. I'll give you a perfectly good example of that. My wife came along acting as my paralegal because I didn't have a paralegal at the time to assist me in a case involving somebody who was just a complete fraud and who we knew was going to lie in their deposition. And so we would be, sort of prepared for it. And my wife is very good with neuro-linguistic programming. She is very good at detecting when somebody is telling a lie. And I found that to be something that could be tremendously helpful to me. And so I brought her along and I said, just tap me on the shoulder, let me know what you think, and that kind of thing. And I wasn't even doing the questioning. And my wife's tapping me on the shoulder. And I'm like, what are you seeing? What kind of stuff are you picking up? Neurolinguistic. She said, neurolinguistic? Look at her neck. And I said, why would I look at her neck? It turns beet red every time she lies. And sure enough, I had been looking at this woman for 20 minutes. When I went back and looked at the videotape, I had been looking at her for 20 minutes. And every time you got close to an issue where you knew she was going to lie, that neck turned as red as my shirt. Well, maybe not completely that red, but pretty close to that red. And it was as big a tell as you could possibly have. And we used that toward the end of the deposition where we basically said, every time we've asked you a tough question, your neck has turned red. Do you have some kind of disease process? No, she didn't have a disease process. But the idea was to plant in the jury's mind that every time this woman's neck turned red, she was lying like a Persian rug. So again, I didn't see it because I was paying attention to the words. I was listening to the words and not really paying attention to the witness. Taught me a valuable lesson. And my wife was able to pick up on it because she is just much better at that. And to this day, if we meet somebody out and, they're sort of a hail fellow, well met kind of person, easy to get along with, my wife will later on say, well, you need to watch out for that person. Well, why is that? Well, I just have a different vibe from him. I'm worried about him, and she has not ever been wrong that I'm aware of. So again, it's really good to have a woman do this because they can pick up on the subtle clues, the shift of the head, the way the hair gets thrown back. All of these things are clues, and I believe this lady is doing an excellent job of cross-examining this woman on these things. And she basically started out saying, well, she wasn't betraying Adam. And then when she looked at the text on the notes that she'd written, it was pretty clear. It says on there, for what I'm going to get if I betray Adam. One of the things that she wanted was immunity. And essentially, she wound up getting a form of that in terms of a plea deal, but it was only after she had already lied to the grand jury. And again, they're making the point that, you lie to the police, you lie to the grand jury, and there's another really good segment in here which I'm going to play, which sort of gives the game away with respect to why she might be lying.
You were also told that you could get charged with perjury if you lied to the grand jury.
Yes.
You were told that not only could you get charged with perjury if you lied to the grand jury, but you could get charged with perjury for each and every lie.
Yes.
And that a perjury charge could bring a sentence of 3.5 to 7 years.
Yes.
In prison.
Yes.
And that if you lied more than once, you could get more than one sentence of 3.5 to 7.
Yes.
You could get a sentence of 3.5 to 7 for every lie you told to the grand jury.
Yes.
And you lied to the grand jury.
Yes.
And you lied more than once.
Yes.
You lied more than twice.
I only got 2 counts of it, so I don't remember lying more than twice.
You do not recall lying more than twice to the grand jury.
Right.
You think you only lied twice to them.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go through what you talked to the grand jury about. They actually talked to you. The prosecutor had this note.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I couldn't tell. Was it this note that was handwritten by you, or was it a copy of it?
It was a copy of it.
Okay. And he read some and had you read some of the note out loud to the grand jury so he could ask you questions about it, right?
Yes.
And he asked you what you meant by thinking about betraying Adam, right?
Yes.
And you said you were thinking about, that he hurt Adam, Harmony, right?
Yes.
Because he had actually only been arrested on June 5th for second-degree assault to Harmony.
Yes.
And you said that betrayal sort of referred to that. You were going to betray him on that.
Yes.
Okay. Because you said that you didn't know what happened to Harmony, that you had no idea.
Yes.
That was a lie.
Yes.
And you said you thought Adam hurt her, but you didn't know what happened to her.
Yes.
That was a lie.
Yes.
And that was a lie that protected you, but pointed the finger at Adam, right?
Yes.
The state doesn't usually get to pick a witness who was there at the scene and knows all the things that happened and does not share some blame or culpability in it. So they have to be able to put up witnesses like Kayla, who indeed had some culpability here. She didn't stop the assault. She didn't protect that child, even though she knew that really was her duty as just a good human being. You have to protect the young, and she didn't do that. This is why prosecutors sometimes have trouble with their cases, is because they have to present witnesses who, while they're not perfect, are a lot better than the people that they are prosecuting. And one of the jobs that defense attorneys have to do, and they have to do it well, is they have to be able to show when someone might be shading the truth or just outright lying, not to put somebody else in jail, but mostly to protect themselves. And I think that's pretty obvious that that was what she was doing. And I thought this was a really good part of the cross-examination to stop with. The cross-examination went for a much longer time the next day. They scored multiple points. And the question is really going to come down to this. Who does the jury believe? Do they believe Kayla Montgomery about what she testified to directly and non-reluctantly, or do they believe that maybe she's twisted things just a little bit and this is not necessarily as clean and cut and dried as the state is making it out to be? I think I know where I come down on that, but I'd be interested to hear your comments. And again, if you have comments, please leave them in the comments down below. Or if you'd prefer, you can email me. That's up to you. Have a marvelous day. And if you would, please come back here tomorrow after you go out of your way to do a good deed for someone else. Open a door, pick up a piece of paper, push your neighbor's trash can to the curb for them. Anything you can do to help somebody else out will make their day better, and it will make your day better. Again, thanks for watching. Catch me down here at the beach again next time. I try very hard not to be like all those other YouTubers who open up every video by asking you to subscribe before you've even seen the content. But now that you've gone a few minutes into the content, if you find this interesting and helpful, please subscribe. I'd consider it a personal favor. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.